Let's take the simplest of simple drum loops. And now I want to ask you a philosophical question about it. What space is this drum loop taking place inside of? If you are acoustically enveloped by this simple drum loop, what space is it in? Reflect on it for a moment. Do you know what you think? What I would like to propose is that I think this happens in no space. All of these sounds happen in a two-dimensional plane really close to the listener because there's no sense of space. There's no contrast, there is no depth. So let's elevate that in a tiny, simple little way by taking one element and putting a little bit of reverb on that one element. For example, on the rim shot. So without. Everything up close, same distance to the listener. With the reverb, suddenly there's the implication of a 3D space. And obviously you're going to be like, Oscar, what kind of a tutorial is this? You put 10% reverb on one element. That's not a tutorial. No, indeed. It's not a tutorial. It's a lesson, an excuse for us to talk about contrast and depth in composition. And at some point in your music learning journey, you probably heard about the box. A way to think about music that has 3 dimensions: near to far, left to right, and high to low. High to low is about frequencies, left to right is about stereo, and the subject of today's video is near to far. So if all of your elements feel like they're happening close to the listener, that's going to feel a bit two-dimensional and maybe flat. And all it takes is one element that feels far away to suddenly suggest that the space is big, and then the elements that are dry and up close to us are meaningful. It's meaningful and exciting to have those dry elements up close because something is suggesting that it's far away. And this is a broader compositional principle, right? Having contrast. Clean things are more impressive when you also have dirty things. Fast things are faster when you also have slow things. Loud things are louder when you also have quiet things. Contrast creates depth and interest and dynamics, emotional dynamics within your composition. And I just did this with the simplest, most accessible sounds that I could find just to prove a point, because this is not reliant on any specific piece of gear. But just for fun, let's maybe prove it also on a new piece of gear that just arrived for me yesterday, the Melbourne Instruments Nina. I'm going to be honest, I'm just looking for an excuse to play with it. But I can make a drum sequence on here that's fully dry and then add one reverb element and you'll see the difference that makes emotionally. Let me show you what that sounds like. By the way, before we go any further, like the video, subscribe, and say something nice to me in the comments. That really helps with the algorithm. Now let's get into it. So this is a polyphonic synthesizer, but it also has a step sequenced mode where you can have treat it kind of like a drum machine or a groove box. And so that's what it's doing right now. It's creating 3 voices of perfectly dry drums. We could make it wet with some effects or whatever, but for today, we want it super dry. And now let's add in that rim shot from before, also perfectly dry. Can we now just make the mental notes that this feels two-dimensional because everything is fully dry. There's no sense of space or dimension. And then we turn that on. Feel the difference. Now your attention, whenever the reverb hits, goes to the back of the room and comes back to the front of the room for all the dry sounds. You could even put reverb on everything. But then things get pushed to the back, get brought back to the front, and then things being at the front feels meaningful, feels exciting because they're up close, but only thanks to the principle of contrast. So no matter what you're doing, that principle of contrast is something to work with. So the silly way of thinking about this tutorial would be like, oh, Oscar taught me to put a little bit of reverb on some stuff. But the more deep and meaningful way to look at this tutorial is to say, no, create something with dimensions and depth and contrast within it, because that adds to the emotional dynamic range of your elements. That's a little bit of a composition tutorial. Let me know what you do with it in the comments. If you like the way I teach, maybe go check out one of my courses on the website. And until next time, stay producing, be good to each other, and take care. Bye-bye.